Um, Welcome everybody to our first of a kind collaboration between XR Access and Helping Hand, which is an amazing deaf VR chat community. We're here today to talk about sighting in VR, to talk about community, and we'll talk about why this type of space is so important for disabled folks all over the world. First, I would love for each of our panelists here to introduce yourself. Tell us briefly about how each of you got started with VR Chat and your experience here, and what Helping Hands means to you.
Well, I guess I'll start since I'm first in line. Excuse me. So hello, my name is Valley Chubu Valley. I started Helping Hands about 4 or 5 years ago. I was in high school, and I think it was when COVID hit, and I saw this video on YouTube that said that you can sign in VR, and when I was very little, I took a sign language class, and it was so amazing, but I never had the opportunity to pursue that again. And so when I saw that video, I was like, oh my gosh, this is something I have to try. Because I didn't have access to any VR, like the VR, well, I didn't have access to like sign language, so VR was the perfect space for that. And I've been learning it for about 5 years. And now I'm a community guide. I help people out. Whoever wants to join and has questions, I'm a person you can go to help out. And yeah.
Thanks, Melanie. Let me pause. Shawarmachine, it sounds like echo has gotten a bit worse. Do you know?
Yeah, I'm seeing two sources. There is another person in the call who is echoing. Also, I hear music from them too.
Oh, yeah. Could everybody who's not Shawarmachine or a panelist please make sure to mute yourself and turn off any background music? Thank you. Thank you.
That immediately helped, whatever that was.
Okay. All right. So, Pro, please. Same question.
Hello, everyone. My name is Crow7, and I am a deaf content creator within YouTube. And so I got on around VR when it was during COVID in 2020. And with me and some real life deaf friends, we had found that within VR there was a sign language world, and I never knew about that at the time. And we realized that you can use sign language within this place. However, I understood it was truly hard to do so because the hands are incredibly complex to maneuver. And so took a little break, relaxed my hands a bit after pressing all those buttons. And so then we went on Twitter, now X, and we saw that there was this community called Helping Hands. And at the time, it didn't really strike any chords with me. However, a bit later, I would make that decision to be able to join, and that was where I would get to meet other deaf volunteers and deaf teachers within this space where they were using ASL, BSL, LSF, which is French Sign Language, just any type of sign language they had here. And it was very awkward at first because keep in mind that I've been using real life sign language forever, and having to transition to this took a lot of time to get used to, and eventually I became really fluent with it. But it just took a very long process. However, during that journey, it was incredibly fun. And now it's been 5 years, and I've really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Thanks, Pro. Ray?
Hello, everyone. My name is Raymond, and this is my sign name. I just go by Ray. Yes, the same name as my dad. We just both use Ray. Anyway, So it was in 2018 where I had seen this one video where I found that there was someone who was signing within VR. And I had never seen it before, and I had no idea how it worked. I was absolutely stumped at it, but I thought it was super cool. And so I went all over the place to try to find this game, and I found VRChat, and so I decided to give it a try. And I was super curious about it because I had never seen it before. I at first was on PC only, so I didn't have VR and didn't really get that ability to move my hands and whatnot. Eventually, I'd be able to meet some deaf people who were in this VR space, and they were signing. And do keep in mind, they weren't like actually deaf people; they were just some students. However, I want to talk about the hand shapes real quick within VR. They are very limited. There's only so many that you can do. And so eventually, when it came to be Christmas, I had gotten my first VR headset, and I was trying to maneuver the controllers, and it took a long time to get used to. And it was super difficult. I just had to gain the experience for it. And so eventually, one of my deaf friends was able to help me, and they were able to train me to be able to get more fluid with it. It took a little bit of time to get used to, but it does come naturally at some point. Helping Hands initially began as a very small team, and we were just trying to come up with some ideas on how to be able to get everything to work out at the time. And in 2019, we had this one New Year's celebration, and then we saw a lot of new people coming in. A lot of people were joining the program, and yes, we also had this big FAQ event, and eventually it just built it to be where it is now. And so we are a very warm, welcoming, and open community, and we are very excited to have anyone that came in to join us. And so a lot of other teachers came in, and we were trying to figure out how to be able to host classes. And it was very intimidating at the time because we had to be able to navigate this sort of new language in front of a really big audience because it was growing so rapidly. And so, we also had to navigate other VR issues such as lag and ping and whatnot. But eventually, we would get down to it. We'd start helping new people learn. And one of our big members, her name is Jenny. This is her sign name. She is a very fantastic interpreter. Um, she was able to help people get them to understand VR sign language over time. But it was just nerve-wracking the whole time. And it just took a lot of time to get used to being able to work with everybody and coordinate as a team. But we are super happy about it. And now, 6 years down the road, I'm still teaching, I'm still working. It is fantastic. I love the work. So, sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for trying to bridge this gap in communication for us and give us access to sign language within VR by using your fantastic technology. And we love y'all. So, again, just thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
So now you're who I am.
Hi, my name is Madison. I go by Earth in VR. I joined very similar to Valley. I was in my senior year of high school in the year of 2020, so COVID hit. I had nothing else to do. I, isolated from friends and other people. And by coincidence, I got a game computer that was built by my father. And we were, I was always interested in VRChat, got into VRChat, and my microphone would work. And some random public world within VRChat showed me helping hands, and at that point in time, I had nothing else to do. I had hours within my day. So I decided if signing was my only communication, then I would just do it. ASL always fascinated me. Sign language has always fascinated me, and ever since then, because of an in-game bug, I have been in here for 5 years now, and I had no idea about the YouTube thing. I know Valley and Crow had experience with seeing Helping Hands or some type of community online, but I didn't have that. So I'm in this community completely by accident. And the deaf world has shown and taught me so much. So while I joined back in 2020, relatively recently or late last year, I joined officially as a staff artist, and now I currently do art and graphics and other related things for Helping Hands, and that's me. And now sorry to forget, I'm currently a ASL interpreting student myself.
Awesome. Thank you, Ray. So the next question, and Ray chatted about this a little bit already, but what are some of the challenges with signing in VR? How does ASL in VR differ from ASL in physical reality?
I can say something from like a student perspective. Because VR ASL is based off of ASL. There's some things that are going to be pretty different, and because the hand shapes won't convey what you want because of the limitations. As a student, when you're learning inside VR only, because I don't have access to learn sign language like in real life, sometimes you end up signing things how they are done in VR instead of how they're done in real life. And that's something I have to be careful of when I'm learning here. And I always have to Google the signs after I learn them in VR. Say Crow sign something that I don't understand. I always make sure that I Google, like, is this the right hand shape I can do in real life? So I not only do I learn the VR version, but also the IRL version. It's very important because I find myself signing VR ASL sometimes in real life. So yes, that can definitely be a challenge.
So my first language has always been sign language. And like I said before, I've been signing in real life. But pretty much whenever you get into VR and you're learning that again, it's like you're starting from square one. So I begin with the Oculus Quest, and there's also the Oculus Rift. They're both very old systems, and their sign hand shapes are very limited. Not a lot. And so it's just something that you really have to get used to, and it takes a lot of time to develop that fluidity, just having to bear with it. And again, just really having to make sure that you get that practice in. However, when you switch to index, it's a little bit easier. Again, that's another thing that took a lot of time. We had to create a bunch of new terms for it too, because we have the separation of quest and index. And so when we're trying to see the similarities between sign language in real life versus in VR, we have to make sure to have that adaptability, and we needed to convert it in order to match and fit what can be signed within VR space. And so some students think that it's okay that within VR, bringing that VR sign language to real life is okay and is understood, but really they're very different. And also keep in mind that whenever you meet anyone in real life and you use that sign language, they are not going to understand you. So you have to be able to learn both. And those two things are separate. And so just make sure that this VR sign language stays at home and you use your real life sign language where you need it. And those two things are vastly different.
Yeah, and if I can just quickly add, I know that even in my experience, because I was very fortunate to have the Index VR system, which has capacitive controllers that allow you to do more similar hand shapes to real life sign. I found that even because of that technical advantage, I found that as a hearing student who absolutely knew nothing about sign, compared to my other hearing, peers within VR, there were some signs that I was able to adapt to and learn easier. So even just your systems and that you use can completely affect your fluidity and fluency of how you're understanding the language. And funnily enough, some of the limitations when we've met in person kind of creep into real life. So because we can't see our faces, we can't, we rely a lot more on those body, language, non-manual markers. We do LOL, like L handshaking. Why? Because you can't see people laugh. But sometimes when we've met in person, even though it's, a real life meeting, sometimes we will still have habits of doing these things. So there really is a lot of like deliberate separation you have to do. And then also navigating limitations of what you can just afford. It will completely affect of how you're using and observing the language, for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, and there's a ton that we could dig into on that in terms of what are the translations of different types of signs and things that require certain facial expression. But for now, I want to move on to our next question, which is, why do you all think that Helping Hands formed on VRChat instead of another social VR platform? And are there features of VRChat that are specifically helpful for your community? Who would like to start?
I would say Ray would be.
Yeah, I was gonna say Ray would be.
Ray for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all
That's what I
you.
was
It's all
thinking.
you.
So VRChat has, of course, a lot of special features whenever it comes to accessibility now. But beforehand, they didn't really have it. But nowadays, we have the ability to type. We have the ability to draw. So we can get those bits of access there, and it's definitely been an improvement. And also, we hope to see some more support for those who are mute or those who are hard of hearing. And so it's definitely super important. So back when I started in 2018, there's this one thing that I noticed, and there was like absolutely no way to be able to communicate as a deaf person prior to sign language. We didn't have that typing ability. And so some days we really had to figure out how to be able to communicate in all these different ways, trying to develop anything that would let us do that. And so we would write, and that would be fine. That would be one way to help us communicate. But then, same thing for those who are mute and hard of hearing. They didn't really have that option because they might not be able to talk or they don't hear as well. Hold on. And so we really had to deal with all these publications in early VR. But then eventually we'd get more support later on. So we get that typing, we could see the captions above, and that was allowing for some smooth communication. And again, it was clear to understand, pretty simple, but it worked. And I have one thing I want to add, where there's this one world where you can go and you can watch videos and upload them, and we want them to have captions because they don't have that. And ever since 2018, there hasn't been any captions in YouTube videos where there's this. And so we had to go about all these complex ways in order to bring them about, because some YouTube videos don't have them ingrained in them, and so it's not accessible for us as deaf people. And so we want to be able to watch YouTube videos here and watch them within VR, but there aren't any captions, and so that would allow us to have that one bit of access that we need. And I totally agree.
Gotcha. So I'm going to switch up the question order a little bit here, and when we're talking about the things that VRChat as an organization could do to help the community, it sounds like caption support is a big one. Are there any other things that VRChat as an organization, as a platform, has done or could do that would help or hinder the VRChat community or the Helping Hands community?
I feel like as our community really grew, I do think on YouTube, Helping Hands is it blew up and it was really popular in the VR chat space. So I think as you know time went on, VR chat did take notice and did really realize that accessibility is really really important. Now we have keyboards from just our avatars that we can just type on. I don't know if you could see it, but you could just type whatever you want, and we didn't have that back then in 2020. And so now I think just from Helping Hands spreading the word, VRChat I personally think has done they made good steps into improving accessibility.
Yeah, if I can try to add on to that, it's sometimes how Helping Hands has influenced VR chat. Sometimes it's not always necessarily the staff itself and how the game is designed and accessibility features, but the virality of Helping Hands itself, especially early 2020s, got that popularity got other people in the game to understand accessibility as well. And I might be wrong, and if any of you guys can correct me, but I remember, for example, there's a very popular game in here called Fate of the Loss, and it's like a ship management game, and you had to, talk to your friends, and it involved a screen popping up. And at first, when that screen would pop up with a video feed, it was too quick for our deaf members or people who signed to be able to communicate. And because we are well known within the community and well known within, honestly, VR social circles in general right now, one of our members reached out to him and said, can we have that extended? Can we have that time extended for communication? And they were pretty they were open about it. They didn't mind. They're like, yeah, sure, fine. So you can have a lot of effect within communities, even just at a community level, if not always a structural level. And that has been the most surprising to me, just seeing how much more aware people are within VR and VR chat specifically about it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think communication between the platforms and the people is always super vital for something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Platform owners, designers, developers that listen to needs of disabled folks on their platforms makes a huge difference. Now, I want to check in with our interpreter here. We only have one interpreter today, Polyswift. Everybody, please thank Polyswift. Polyswift, how are you doing? We talked about taking a quick break at the half hour.
Yes, now would be a great break. Thank you.
Okay, so let's take 5 minutes, if that's okay. Take a quick break. We can, in the meantime, communicate via chat, or people can just take bio break. We'll be back at 9:35.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thank you, Paula. We really appreciate you today.
Yeah. Of course.
Okay, so next question we had was right. How has social VR been helpful in supporting and connecting deaf communities, both on and offline? How does your relationship with the people in VRChat compare to your relationship with other deaf and hearing people in real life?
I think I'll leave this one to
Yeah,
Crow
that's
and Ray.
definitely yeah.
Yep.
Uh, Next, so it is very important because we have people. Wait, hold on. Sorry, there's echo.
Oh, that's better.
Okay, cool. Let's continue. So I think it's super important, especially for hearing people here. They are learning a language and they are being more motivated in order to become an interpreter in real life. So, for example, here we have Earth. They started here and they were learning, and then at some point they decided to become an interpreter and join an interpreter program. And so it's things like that that we really encourage here in our community in order to be able to go to, like, for example, deaf socials or deaf outings and taking ASL programs and going to deaf chats, coffee chats. There's a whole variety of them that you can attend. And that increases your awareness and that increases the size of the community. And it is a fantastic experience and is incredibly beneficial to you because you are able to see the real life aspects of sign language, such as the facial expressions and the body shifting and everything that we do not have here that's not clear or very limited. And so those parts are very different, but it is great to be able to experience that in real life. And so when our students are learning sign language, they are getting involved with the culture. They are able to have a goal. And maybe that goal could be to become an interpreter. And it's very true.
Yeah, I'll quickly add on to that. Obviously, I can't speak on the deaf perspective of things, but it has a real life effect. In my ITP program, my interpreter training program, I actually met someone else who was part of Helping Hands. And we sat at our table together and we're like, wait, you know Helping Hands? And we're like, yes. And they're like, you know Ray? And we started talking about Ray. And Ray doesn't live where we live. Ray doesn't live in Ohio. But the thing is that linguistic influence, that teaching experience of being able to be around so many different people in different deaf signing accents, different types of sign language. It's all helpful in, at least on the interpreting and hearing student side of things. It has only strengthened my practice because I've had a lot more exposure to different varieties of how people sign. Even today, there are still different from my program. I sign hot dog a different way than people here where I live sign because of Crow and Ray. So it's very felt. It's very felt for sure.
Awesome. Um, and Valley, you want to add to that, or should we move on to the next question?
You can move on to the next question.
Great. Okay, so the next one is, what would you say to people who are interested in joining Helping Hands or learning more about sign language, about VR and VRChat? What's your message to the broader community?
I guess I'll start with me. So Helping Hands is, a community, but it's also, a class where you can learn sign language and everything. And I guess my message to everybody is just to not be afraid and just go into it. Join and, attend a class, join the Discord. Feel free to ask our like all of our volunteers and teachers, just any questions. Um, we're a very welcoming community, and that's what we strive to do. I think most importantly is to invite both deaf people and hearing people in our community. And I know that, including myself, I was pretty scared when I first joined the community because I didn't know a lot of sign, and I was surrounded by deaf people like Crow, and I really didn't know anything, and so I was really really scared. And so I guess I want to relate my experience to anyone else who's like, I don't know any sign. I can't interact with anybody. I can't talk with people. I can't. But that's not true. We had pens. Me and Crow communicated with pens. Slow signing. And writing with the typing. Like it's all possible, all levels. It doesn't matter if you know nothing. It doesn't matter if you know like everything. It's a community, and we're just here to uplift each other and help people, get started. So don't be afraid to join. If you have those anxieties, it's like, oh, I don't know any sign, and I have to communicate with deaf people. Oh my God, what if they yell at me? What if I'm wrong? No, that's those are fears that don't exist. When you start talking with deaf people, you realize, oh my gosh, it's so beneficial. I learned like with a real deaf person and correct sign language. And not only that, like you make great friends. Like Crow's a good friend of mine for like 4 to 5 years. And I'm just really happy and I want to share that with all of you. So please, join our Discord. If you have any questions, you can literally ask any of the staff. And yeah, I just really encourage you to come and learn sign language, even if you know nothing, even if you don't know any finger spelling, you are okay. So yes, I beg of you, if you have any interest at all, just come to one class. And if you don't like it, it's okay. So yes, please come.
So I definitely agree. I feel like a lot of people feel very scared. They feel very intimidated at the same time. And so I also encourage that if anyone is interested and if they begin with that very basic skill, eventually they will get better. It's very true amongst everybody. And so at the start, yes, it's going to be very, very slow. It's going to be a very long process, and you're not going to get to the top immediately. But if you just have patience and you practice over the time, it could be years, eventually you might realize that sign language is just the top of the iceberg. So you also have the other aspects of it, like I said before, the grammar, the structure, the facial expressions, the body shifting, all that impacts the language. And so when you think you just have the simple signing and the moving of the hands, there's a lot more to it. It's going to be complex. It's going to be overwhelming. However, we are here to help. We want to support you in your learning journey. And so just like what Valley had said, when you have that experience and you interact with us, just keep in mind that our community's goal is to be able to help you. We want to be able to see all of you become great at sign language. So I also share a very similar experience because I had to learn the language myself. And of course, I began very basic. And a lot of people would come up to me and they'd be very excited to be able to help. And so they'd show me words, they'd show me vocabulary. And if at any point I was confused or if at any point I was wrong in my signing, they would want to correct that misunderstanding. And so it just became very clear to me. And I do want to let you know that we do have some different ways of signing. Some things. Wait, hold on. So if you're hearing and you're interested, we do have a lot of people who are willing to be able to help you and make that learning journey easier and fix your mistakes. And also, the option to join is all up to you. We're not going to force you after all, but if you want, we highly encourage you to do so. So, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much very similar to what everyone else said. Just join, come in, be yourself. We do not bite. Again, as Ray has previously said, we are a very open and warm community in general. You know, everyone here is very supportive, and if I've ever been wrong or I just don't know something, I just ask. You know, this is a space where you can take up space. You can, you know, be like, I need help. I don't understand. You know, you will make mistakes and that's fine. So don't be nervous about it. And you know, your what's unique about Helping Hands is that it's not only just a language learning, it's not just a sign language, it's not just ASL, it's culture. So you will be learning a lot about deaf culture. And you have to just drop your ego a bit and have an open heart and open mind and just learn about different perspectives. And it will help you if you come in with that mindset as well. And of course you can join our Discord and everything, but just be yourself. Don't beat yourself up. I think we have a lot of people that come in thinking that they'll be like a pro or should be the best, and that's not the goal. We're all practicing, especially for us hearing students.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, very true. I was taking some introductory sign language classes with Cornell, and it can be a lot when you're first starting out. But I think with a community like this, it's very encouraging and helpful and not at all judgmental. I think you can really ask for a better place to learn. So, last question before we hopefully have time for one or two from the audience is what do you see as the future of social VR and Helping Hands? And what would your ideal social VR platform look like?
Wow, this is a big thought question.
Yeah.
I definitely think that VR is still a ways away to becoming mainstream. So I definitely think that it's gonna take some time for it to become like a main thing where people all have access to. VR is expensive; not everybody has that luxury. Um, but I do think as it grows bigger and our community sticks together, um, and the years go by and VR becomes more popular, I think Helping Hands will become much bigger and actually have like I feel like not all deaf people know about it right now, not everyone knows about it, but I feel like with VR emerging like more in the future that everyone will be like, well, yeah, there's this like everyone will know about it, like it'll be a resource for everybody. Because right now VR is not easily accessible, so I definitely think in the future it's going to become something really big, especially with not just sign language community, but there's people making VR movies, VR shows, VR. There's so much to do in VR, and although it's on the down low, I do feel like in the future, definitely it's gonna become a big thing, and people just don't know about it, and so that's why I think we're all eager to have spread the word about not only Helping Hands, but just about VR in general and what amazing things can go on in social VR.
So, with me being an ASL content creator, one of the endeavors that I'm personally in is networking, and so I have contact with a bunch of different types of communities where we all work together. And it's interesting because they know who we are. They know what Helping Hands is. And we do feel like it could become even more popular if that networking increases. And in that way, we have more support for our blooming community. And so publication on YouTube and other streaming services has absolutely helped, where we can spread awareness of using sign language in VR. So then that way, if they're interested in joining Helping Hands, they can get motivated to learn. They could just dive right into the culture, and they can learn whatever they wish to do so. And so that development is very important, and we feel like it's going to keep going if we continue to network. And so we want to spread awareness, and we want to spread the word of who we are. And so I have hopes to see even more access and accessibility for those who are deaf in VR. So that way they can fully enjoy and get the entire experience of having fun in VR. However, it is going to take a lot of time. And so we don't expect it to happen in a day, but with down the line, we absolutely see that being a possibility. And so it's one of our beliefs, and we are looking forward to that.
You don't have to. I'll answer. So I have thought about this a lot. I think social VR, is quite intimate. I think social VR will become more intimate. Deaf space is intimate, just by the nature of the deaf community. So I see social VR becoming something that right now, like in terms of cost, it prohibits more people joining, but it's just growing. Especially like being in here in VR and watching when the Quest released, the amount of people who came in, down to how people would even design their avatars changed because we had different perspectives and cultures coming in. It's going to rapidly develop, and I think it is, relatively speaking, already doing so. It's just the wider public, like we've talked about up here, just is not really fully aware of it. And I think if we want to teach social VR in that, it's blend of like Wild West freedom, but with restrictions of what we can do, I think social VR should just be more, it should stay flexible. Some of the reasons why we've been able to have accessibility in the community and with Helping Hands is because there is a fair amount of freedom, especially compared to other platforms by, let's say Meta Horizons or other platforms as well. But VRChat in particular is very flexible. So something that I think any developer or whoever's interested in VR should be researching and really paying attention to is understanding like how the flexibility of social VR is really key to its growth. And that's where I see it developing, and we're already seeing it. Everything has just gone bigger. There's been AT&T, there's been Netflix collaborations, there's been virtual market, which is like a shopping thing that you can do in VR. So it's a growing space. And to wrap it up, I could go on forever about it. It needs to stay accessible as possible, and to keep that community outreach and ties to the community so that developers know what's going on, so changes can be made, and accessibility is always paramount, especially for controllers. We need controllers, we need better controllers. If we can get controllers that are, accessible and cheap, and, we can bend our fingers and overlap our fingers or show facial expressions and headsets, that's what we need to do, and for not just deaf, but hearing.
Awesome. I think we have one quick question from Zoom, which is, what are the structures of the VR sign language class? How do we register? Are they drop-in single classes, or is it a structured program? And Polly, just FYI, I muted you on Zoom because we were getting some background noise. So Polly, I've asked you to unmute Zoom so we can hear you. And
So we do have a schedule for it. And so if you're interested and you want to take a look, you can absolutely do so, but you just have to join our community because we have it in our Discord server. So you'll see that link, and you'll be able to join it yourself, and you can begin classes. So it's not really like a registration, but it's just the fact that you have to join our Discord, and then you'll get access to that link, and you'll also be able to see our schedule. And also, yes, you will need Discord for that too. So we have that schedule, and then we have the Discord, and that's it. And so our classes are generally about half an hour. We don't really want to keep them too long. We just want to make sure that due to the worldwideness of our community, we want to have our schedules fit everyone's time. And so that allows for new people to join in, gather some experience, and they can learn a few signs. So we do about 6 to 7 words, and we have it very short. And that's just because we don't want everyone to feel incredibly overwhelmed or stressed in classes in case they don't understand. And so we want to make sure that everyone is learning effectively. Yes, and I agree too.
I guess I would like to add that, again, ASL is not our only, class language that we have in Helping Hands. We have JSL, we have BSL, we have LSF. Like, we have more sign languages, and if you join the Discord, there'll be a chat with everything that you need to know about how to join, and you can click notifications if you want to join game events, if you want ASL events, if you want BSL events. There's a lot you can choose from, and we're here to help you. If you have any questions, just join the Discord and ask us, and we'll help you.
Awesome. Well, I think on that note, we're just about out of time for today. But I want to thank all of you so much for taking the time to be here, to Polly for doing an amazing job interpreting, to Shawarmachine over here for being our tech support and camera person, and to everybody on VRChat and on Zoom that came out to attend because you're interested about this. So thanks everybody so much. We'll be wrapping up the official stream here. And I think we might hang out for just a few minutes to chat and debrief for anybody who wants to hang out.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
For us, it is.